Greetings, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, licensed presenters, the Core New Core, my patrons, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. Just two things on my list today. One is, what's the deal with the short box? And two is, mind your business. And so that's my first pass on the carousel. So what is this? Wow, there's an echo. What is this? This is a short box. There are all kinds of sizes of short boxes. They're all used as a, well, let's see. That's where my question is. And here's where I hope that Filippo will show up on Facebook so that I can express honest curiosity without judgment. I mean, it's tough not to be judgmental. Human nature, I suppose. But that's the title. Number one is, what's the deal with the short box? Because in social media, I see the short box being used in so many different ways. And so, like my questions are, that's a good way to come from. Where is this coming from? Because what I'm seeing in the use of the short box is a much broader expression of its use classically, originally in the original work, and even within today's classical, I think, expressions of Pilates. The short box has taken on or stretched out the spectrum of its utilization. And so one of these is, I'm wondering, where is this coming from? You know, what person or school is making all of this up? And then right behind that is the question, well then why is it being taught? Why? Why all of this diversity in the implementation of the short box? Is there any reason behind it? And it seems like there has to be more than one reason, because the expressions of its use are so broad and diverse and different. Meaning what? Meaning that using the short box as a platform from which to do a supported foot in splits that allows you to maintain the squareness of your hips in space to the effort. Okay, it's like on its way to doing it as it's originally meant to be done, where it's easier and more stable to do. But the use of the short box goes way beyond facilitating. See, I don't get it. That's why I'm asking the question. Like, it seems like it's such a thing lately. And in identifying it as something lately, I'm asking, what is the deal with the short box? Where is it coming from? Why is it being taught, most importantly? Because from the MMP point of view, there's an explanation about what it is and why it is what it is. And is all of this implementation of short box, where does, if it does, fit in at all to the point of view that I'm so myopic in? Square hips I mentioned, or maybe to facilitate not using the wrists, so being on forearms and using the short box for a replacement to requesting the wrists. Let's see. Is it all improv? And is the sake of its being shared the hope of its novelty? I don't know. And so I started with a where, like where is this coming from? And then where is this going to? Okay? Is it going anywhere other than an open palette of creative expression? To where everything is as good as everything else, perhaps only better to the point that it's novel. And the MMP point of view is a point of view at the opposite of that spectrum, where it's not novel at all. It's very ideal and specific and universal. And so that takes me to number 2, and number 2 is mind your business. It seems like that phrase keeps coming up in movies more than in person, or in books, reading, right? But someone talking about mind your own business, or I have to mind my business, or usually to me it's an admonition of mind your business. Mind your own business, as in a way of saying your business is not my business. Which in a way is acknowledging individuality, in that your individuality is not my individuality, and your business to you as an individual is different than my business and me as an individual. Why am I talking about this? Well, it sort of dovetails with right where I'm coming from, insofar as within the Michael-Miller-Pilates point of view, Pilates has an essence of its own. It's assumed that it does. And it's assumed that there's an experience that you're after in the complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. Knowing the specificity with which Pilates can be explained, it's no wonder that those who have lived and loved and shared with passion all that they know about Pilates outside of or before an explanation emerged, I'm here to share with you the point of view that Pilates has an essence of its own. And if you want to survive in the jungle of gravity, as a Pilates student in the pursuit of Pilates, and more importantly to me, in the pursuit of then teaching it, understanding and explanation of it as part of how you view Pilates, how you do it, and how you teach it. I think what I'm trying to say is that to survive as a Pilates instructor, it might be a good idea to understand it from an explanation, from a theory point of view. There's folklore, which is word of mouth, the predominant culture of Pilates in 2019, and a theory, an explanation of Pilates that isn't based in folklore, it's based on Joe's book, Return to Life Through Contrology. The point of view of MMP takes three things out of Joe's book: his definition, his statement that contrology develops the body uniformly, and then his sequence of hundreds, roll up, roll over, all the way through to the push-ups. Those three things get you to the definition of the ideal from the MMP point of view. That's just one point of view, but it's an ideal point of view based on the evidence of those three things that get you to an experience, an explanation of Pilates that points to an experience as being what it is. MMP is a point of view of Pilates that points to Pilates as being an experience and that experience happens through time in that it's flowing through different exercises without stopping, and that there's pursuit of physical ideals within the pattern of the exercises. So, from those three things you get to uniform eccentric loading flowing through progressive patterns of movement. That's just the MMP POV. But it's unique and transcendent because it transcends out of a common view that folklore is the only way to look at Pilates, that word of mouth and the knowledge handed from one generation to the next can be and is the only legitimate authority and credential in Pilates. Even if that were true, those that understood it in theory would still be better off in whatever aristocratic weave they're a part of. So my point about minding your business is to recognize as an individual, when you're talking about Pilates, it's all about the individual. It's about the choreography. It's about the movement. It's about the way you move through the choreography. It's how you express Pilates. And to me, that's uniform eccentric loading flowing through progressive patterns of movement. And you're doing that in pursuit of complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. And that's in MMP just saying it's your body, it's your thinking, and it's your observing. Simple, easy, practical way to look at MMP is body, mind, and spirit is your body, your prefrontal cortex, and your amygdala hippocampal areas of the brain. Those three parts of any individual. And the task in Pilates is coordinating them, which is no small feat, and takes all of the finesse and art and skill and divination and intuition and luck when you enter into doing Pilates. So the inconvenient truth from the MMP point, from the inconvenient truth from traditional point of view, which is all folklore, is that Pilates does have an essence of its own. And that's the MMP point of view. It's different than the norm. But it's a point of view based on an explanation, and it's based on right from Joe, and you can take Joe's own words and get to an experience that you can either say, no, I have no idea what that's about, or yes, I recognize that experience, but that's not everything. Just to be able to say, yes, I have done Pilates and found that experience. Maybe not. A lot of Pilates is presented all mind to muscle, all thinking, without any requirement for that third thing in Joe's definition. And in MMP, that's observing. And so that's the thinking having to connect to the listening to what's going on out there beyond you as an individual, in the hopes of surviving in the jungle. All of this diverse expression of movement using Pilates apparatus obscures the pursuit of the purity which exists within the original work. And so to the extent that it's all about you, then you take Pilates and everything else and mix it up into whatever you are as an individual, and that is what you present or share with the world. What you share with the world is based on you as the lens. What I would hope you get from me is that Joe's work has a message of its own. It's immediate, it's direct, it's sensational, and you can take it right out of his words. Knowing that, as an individual, empowers you with knowing what your business is in your pursuit of Pilates for yourself, and then even more so when you seek to instruct others. Knowing, it's such a relief for me, knowing that it's not about me. It's not about the messenger. It's not about what I make of everything that I've learned in the past as to what matters most to what I deliver. No, I hold the curtain aside, I hope, and point to the three things in Joe's book that I base a theory on, that Pilates has an essence of its own. And to the extent that you're aware of that theory and have control of that explanation in here, it gives you balance and perspective to whatever else is out there. And when it comes to so many situations where you wonder, what am I doing? What do I do next? Where do I go with this? Those aren't easy questions. Say in your own pursuit of Pilates, and especially when you're doing, well, maybe not especially, but when you're seeking or taking on others as well. When you try to help someone pursue Pilates, dive into their effort, and it's not yours, you're standing outside of the sensational feedback loop that is important to the performance of the effort. You have to be listening to what you sense in order to tell the difference and end up taking more control, having more control, going deeper in your control. You can mind your business when you know the business of Pilates. And the business of Pilates and Michael Miller Pilates is diving for the experience in pursuit of ideal movement through the choreography, through progressive patterns of movement, progressive in complexity, in what matters to survival, surviving. Flexion and extension is no accident in our composition as a human being. What are you aiming for? Well, you're aiming for returning to life through contrology and in a different method of movement, they have a salute to the sun, a pattern of movement. Pilates is a pattern of movement that is a salute to reality. Doing Pilates acknowledges your biological your intellectual, your thinking, and your observing, looking around, the senses that feed your thinking. To me, that's all that this is about. Helping a person connect to not just their feelings in terms of like what's going on inside of themselves, but what's going on in the outside world, what they're observing, and connect that to what's going on in the inside world, what you're thinking. It's like striking a tuning fork and produces a tone that offers a sense of resonance, produces, promotes, is a source of resonance. That's why I do this. Where's my gonger? Here. So I have to go, but D sharp, G sharp, and 5 C sharp. Those 3 bowls. For me, thinking that Pilates has an essence of its own helps me navigate where to go next or what to do next, especially with a student who's dealing with a lot. Everyone wants to be in pursuit of the ideal, regardless of the specificity of themselves as an individual. Life can't live forever. So read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Connect the dots. Evaluate points of view. And then know how to make an offer. Know how to exchange value for value, because that's what's fun, is getting to share what you value. You control that. Christopher Columbus, Aretha Franklin. Evaluate points of view and add 2 and 2. As there's presenter, teacher, and instructor. An instructor is right there in the bubble with the student, asking for action, something to do. Instruction, something to do. Instructing, to do. Teaching is an attempt at thinking, embracing thinking. They're different. You want to use teaching and skating like ice skates. And ideally you come into a class as an instructor and you never stop and you slide out of class without ever breaking into thinking. But that's ideally, because even if no thinking is called for in terms of making an instruction on how to do something, making everybody think about something in terms of doing it better, even if all of the instruction is solid is in place and everybody's in place in the pursuit of it, that's a total attention magnet for someone that can't stand the silence or the focus. I think it's up to the instructor to be understanding and tolerant of that happening and why that happens, and yet be able to totally let go of it and know that what you're after is getting back on the skate of instruction. Because people show up to be told what to chase, to be given instruction. Told what to do, I avoided saying that because it's not like go do this. It's like go get this, go chase this, go dive in and find your depth of control in the effort before you just lose your focus and you can't do it anymore. You can't stay at depth. You can't stay totally focused. You have to let go of that and return to the normal distractions of everyday life. Direct your thinking. Direct your thinking. Geist.